it might take a couple of seconds. Oh, we are live already.
Boom.
I see the chat. I see the chizat. So are we doing all the things that everyone wants us to do?
I don't know what that is.
All the socials,
All the
reminders, the events, all the things.
I'll put one on Twitter, and we'll get some.
We'll get 3 people.
No, we'll probably get some spam.
Oh, spam is good. I love spam.
Only it's cooked.
Cook spam. Oh, lower that volume. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Give you a couple seconds to mosey on in. Find your seats.
How do you mosey? This is how I mosey.
I mosey. I try to mosey like Shaggy.
Shuffle.
On Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, that's exactly how you mosey.
Where he walks with his legs in front of him a little bit, hands down at the sides. That's what I like to do.
Mosey on in, people.
No thumbs down yet. Well, let's not jinx it there. Brett, come on, smash that thumbs up button, homies.
So
Okay.
hopefully those of you in the States are recovering. I didn't even think about that. There might be some people recovering from our 4th.
4th of July. This is how you recover.
Jason's recovering.
Jason's recovering. It's good. We had a pretty normal day.
Yeah.
You know what's good though? I get this thing off today.
Yay.
Actually, as soon as we're done here, we're on a pretty tight timetable because as soon as the show's done, I'm hopping in the car and I'm like, get them out, get the stitches out.
Yep.
I got this like splint thing in there that's going to come out. That's been fun to play with all week long. So excited. All right, shall we start?
I think we should.
All right. Well, hey, it is Friday Live. I'm Mark.
And I'm Nicole.
We're going to talk to you about some woodworking stuff. I've got a M-Power router accessory base plate thingamajiggy to talk to you guys about. And we've got a couple of quick announcements. Do you want to jump right into those?
Yesterday I launched a giveaway on the free site. It's been a while. I was just thinking how I used to do them every single month.
Oh, man.
It was a breakneck pace for
That was
4 years.
That was my favorite job that I gave to you. It was one that I would never want to do again.
So our friends over at Jet and Powermatic just released a new, is it a 13-inch?
13-inch helical head benchtop planer.
Benchtop planer, and they gave me one to give away. So I set up the giveaway page. If you go over to the woodwhisperer.com/giveaway, you'll find all the different ways that you can enter. And hey, you only need to enter once. You don't have to do all of them. They're just there. It gives you better odds, but it's kind of a way for you to learn more about Jet and for them to get a little benefit with the giveaway. So we already have 11.
I checked that this morning when I woke up. It was like 10,000, less than 10,000, and now it's almost 12,000 entries.
Given you can have up to 10 entries.
Yeah.
So
that's not individuals. It's just total entries.
And I've been doing.
But what's the difference? If you're talking about odds,
Yeah.
it's just the same people each get. It doesn't matter. It's your personal chances are this many out of this many.
And I will say, over the years, we've had winners, a lot of winners, just give me their email address. That's it. So it really is just
Totally random.
It's random.
Totes random.
So there you go. It'll be running until August 1st. So you're thinking about it now. Go over and do it.
Just go do it.
Go do
Get it done. And then you're in.
It's over $700 that tool's worth.
Nice. Okay, a couple quick announcements about guild projects here.
Yeah.
We've got a Spice Case project.
Spice, baby.
A Spice Girls project by the Spice Boy of the guild, Carmona. If you want to be his lover.
You got to get with my friends.
So this is the little, we got a lot of requests for smaller, refined projects. Smaller doesn't necessarily mean crappy, but just smaller in scale, or easy, right. Smaller in scale, and something that more people would find approachable, you know, because hall trees aren't exactly something people can put in their houses, you know, and not everyone has room for that. So this is a little Spice case with little compartments. He's going to carve a spoon. This is just an approximation of what he's going to be building. We actually don't know what it's going to look like when it's done, but that actually is coming out of pre-order, publishing today for the first couple of videos coming out. So today is the last day for you to get the pre-order price. If you don't get in there today, the price goes up. You could still bundle and get a discount, but it won't be as big. So if you're interested in that project, you definitely want to get in there now.
And if I figured it up, if you've bundled it with 2 pre-orders, that the price of that comes down to like $30-something.
Oh,
It's
that's a
it's
great
in the
deal,
30s.
Nicole.
I can't remember
That's
the
a
exact.
great deal. The other thing is we have a live watch party tonight. So that's a new thing that I've been doing.
That's right.
I've been trying to do these little watch parties because I realize when we just put like a line art image up there, it's hard for people to know if this is something they want to invest in. So with these watch parties on the release day, when the first couple videos come out, we will actually show those videos live. The live feed will just be temporary. It goes away afterwards. But if you want to see it, you get a quick preview of what that project is going to look like, what the series will look like, and you get a taste of it and decide if you want to jump in. So we're doing one of those tonight. It is for guild members only, though, at this time. We might expand those out and make them open to the public, but for now, it's just guild members.
You're still feeling them out.
Still feeling everybody out. Don't squeeze the Charmin, Nicole. So here's the other thing. We got a bread box. That's a new announcement, a drop-in project. This was not on the schedule, but a lot of people saw what I was building, and they said they would really like to see the guild treatment for something like this. So we are going to be starting this project in August. Jay and I will probably be starting
It's
building
already
it next
July.
week. I know, it's crazy. And Jay and I are going to start building this thing as soon as I get this stupid bandage off my hand. This is also... small in scale and value priced. It's actually pretty low price for a nice entry point into the guild if you're interested in that. That's all I got for the announcements.
Yes, and we're taking all of the questions from the chat today because it was 4th of July and I totally spaced, and I apologize to the Patreon folks.
We'll get you next week.
Yes, I promise next week I will. I did have a post, but it was like, hey, here's the schedule for
Yeah.
and boop.
What you gonna do?
That's what's happened.
What you gonna do?
Tim JB just said, do you know of any good resources for designing the bases of furniture carcasses without small feet? I.e. bases for media cabinets, chests, or maybe our small dressers.
Nope.
No.
I mean, when you're looking
I
at...
thought I saw that question come up in the guild.
I think I saw it too, and I purposely did not answer it there because I didn't have an answer. I don't have any specific resources. I actually think it's really difficult to find... really dialed in niche specific resources like that just cover like either a furniture style or a particular type of thing like bases like he's talking about. That's actually harder than you would think to find those things. So you generally only find information on that stuff when you see someone building a project that incorporates something close to what you want. Then you watch that project and you go, okay, well there's a tip I got from that, but I don't know of any definitive resources, and I'm not really that well versed in that, so.
Kevin Windsor, thank you for the super chat.
Hey Kevin, thank you, sir.
Brett wants to know how much detail how much detail do you plan to go on the through tenons for the bread box?
All the details.
All the details.
It's hard to explain if you've never seen a guild project. You might not be aware of how much detail we go into. I'm not happy until you have everything you need. So even absolute beginners, as long as you have, comparable tools or something, the actual devices I use to make these things, you should be able to do it. We have first-time builders coming into the guild all the time who've never built anything, and they'll build a split-top Rubo or even a rocker, which blows my mind when I see that.
The Adirondack chair.
That's a person who clearly had a bit of an aptitude for this and also a budget for the tools. But yeah, we'll be going into all the details.
Phil wants to know if I'm only a free level in the guild, can we still see the feed tonight? That's actually a good question. I
don't think so.
We should try to.
Because it's a guild, it's classified on the website as a guild live meeting, like our monthly guild meetings, which means it is not open to the public. Again, that may be something that we can open up in the future. Right now, just the way everything is set up, this is a new idea that we're playing with. It's only the second one we've done. We're just keeping it within the guild sort of wheelhouse.
Alrighty, should we?
But all you have to do is go buy that Cremona bread box and the bread box and Cremona spice box, and boom, you're in.
Yep.
Let's do a demo.
Well, the other thing is too, I sent out an email to no guild members. They're not a trial. They're not a. Should I just give them the coupon code?
Nope.
No.
No.
All right.
I don't know why you mentioned it.
Because.
I don't know why. You're just confusing the issue.
I'm not confusing anything.
Okay. So we do have a quick demo that we need to do. There is a company called M Power, and they're British, right? They're from the UK. So
which is why she emailed me yesterday Because she was still working. Cynthia was still working.
Okay. So hey, I'll actually show you a close-up of some of this stuff, but I want to just give you an idea. So basically, the reason I think this is really useful, when I did my Festool mass exodus a couple of years ago, and I decided to really trim down the type of Festool tools that I had and just keep the real game changers. I put my OF 1400 on the side, and I decided to try to live for a year or 2 years, just looking at reviews. I thought the Bosch router, plunge router set was a pretty good one to get. So I wanted to see what it was like to actually, to force myself to use that tool with their edge guide. Bosch has one of the better edge guides on the market that you can get for that particular router. And I did wind up going back to the OF 1400 because I really missed the Festool edge guide. It's a really good one. It's a creature comfort thing, but I really missed having it, so I went back to the OF 1400. Had I had this in my possession, I might not have done that. And if you look at all the other brands of routers, most of them have a pretty inadequate edge guide. They're sloppy. There's a lot of slop in the adjustment mechanisms, if there is any kind of micro adjustment at all. Now you could still use them, don't get me wrong. It's something where if you get the router bit in position and lock it down, it's fine. But generally speaking, they're not going to really micro adjust very well, and your functions on them are fairly limited. So that's what I really like about this setup. This addresses that with a universal router, base, and guide system. And they've got 3 different things here that we're going to be able to show you, but it all starts with this guy. This is the, what is it, like 7-in-1 deal? It does 7 different functions, but the primary thing that I want you to see is you've got 2 bars that will hook up to your router and a plate, and then all kinds of cool stuff that you could do with those, right?
It is cool.
It's pretty awesome. So let's go over here and take a look. For anyone who doesn't understand what's happening right now,
what is going on?
This is an ad, but it is also a demo. All right, so we'll just be in this area here, Jay.
And I have something cool to give everyone.
Popsicles?
No, not popsicles.
Oh, you didn't mean that literally?
No, not.
Okay. So here's the starter kit. This is where you're going to start out. This is the CRB7, and that includes this guy and plus some other stuff in here. So let's start at the beginning. You've got 2 posts. They say that this fits what? They actually give it a number. 99% of routers, and I'm sure they surveyed that and it's accurate.
Yeah, I want to say I was looking at their website and they gave like a list of like 300 or 400.
I mean, just about everything this audience probably has, this guy's going to fit. So how they do that is they have these bars here, and they give you a couple different sizes to fit the most common slots in the router. Jay, can you hand me the DeWalt there? I'm actually not going to have a router for this. I'm just going to show you the operations on the base, mostly because I can't hold anything really heavy. But most router bases, even if they don't, the manufacturer doesn't make a really good edge guide, they typically have these holes here. And if you can get posts in there and little wing nuts to lock them in place, you now have an edge guide. So that's why you have all these different posts in the kit, because you're able to put those in and lock them down, depending on what size you need. So I think I'll be done with that. You've got an adjustment mechanism here, all right, that allows you to get these guys refined in both, spacing, height, not just the thickness of the bars, but you can completely position them. This side actually has a locking nut there, and you could slide that back and forth in case your base is wider or narrower. So it really is pretty universal, all right? You've got a micro adjustment mechanism here, so once you're, can you get the OF 1400? I feel like we at least need to show a router on this thing because it looks a little weird without one. You slide your router on here, and of course your bit has all this room to play. Anyone who has done a lot of routing kind of knows that the size of the base can really increase the functionality. Thank you, sir. All right, try to do this without causing me. Hey, Jay, why don't you come over here? Show me how this is done. So let's get that guy up there. We had this previously set up on the 1400, so there we go. Perfect. So it just slides on like that. Okay. So that's really how it works. You lock it down. Now you're in position, and you can see you've got a pretty nice wide, and this is what I was just saying. The size of the base is really helpful. If you're trying to balance this router on a work surface, that's why they make oversized bases sometimes, like D-handle bases and things like that, because it gives you better counterbalance and better control. And anyone who has seen Matt Vanderlist's old video where his router tried to dance on his palm.
What?
On his little mini, he had a little mini router and he was doing a little thing, kind of just taking it for granted that you could do it one-handed, and it just caught, lost control, and the bit just about bounced on his palm.
My God.
It was pretty hilarious.
I don't think that would have been hilarious. James said it's kind of like a little baby router sled.
In a way, yeah, it is. Right. So once this thing is on here, now you've got the main setup ready to go. You could do all these other functions. Now I will take the router off because I can't lift this thing with it on there. Thanks, Jay. All right, so a couple things I want to show you before we get into these other kits here. All this cardboard is confusing the issue. So you see these two little posts down here. I love this. If you want to make a mortise or a rabbet, you see these two little metal guides there? If you have a router on here, watch what happens as you continue to rotate this around. Eventually you lock in. And as long as you keep a little bit of rotational force on there, you can cut a very accurate groove, tenon, or a mortise, rabbet, whatever it is you need to do. So that's why you've got those little adjustments on there. And because of all the pre-drilled holes, you can move them to various places for different tasks, right? And if you need to move and you don't want a dead center, you can move your router base back and forth to get that router bit positioned wherever you need it to go, all right? So that's pretty handy. Here's one more thing I want to show you on this kit. This guy. So have you ever had a situation, we were talking about balance before. I'm going to take these off. If you could, Jay, get these back on so we don't lose them. There are parts. There are parts with this thing, and you don't want to lose all these parts. Gracias, amigo. So over here, we have this little ball handle. You can pop this out, and there are things that fit into this spot over here. If you put this little foot in from the bottom, now imagine we have our router installed, right? So we're doing some kind of an edge treatment on here. A lot of times when you're on the edge, again, narrow router base, you could tip and drop to the side. This little foot is pretty fantastic because you can kind of address the edge, set the foot for the height of your workpiece, lock that sucker down, and now you've got complete support for this. So talk about, making like a really safe edge profile cut on there. You just have all this support, and there's really zero, we might need to close that door. There's zero chance of tipping with this in place because you've got that little adjustable foot. That is a really, really sweet feature.
So
other things.
There's 3 parts to this kit.
There's other add-ons.
Can you just have that one thing?
This is the start of it.
That's the start of it.
If you're going to get into the game, these other things are useless without this.
Okay.
Okay, so those are add-ons, but this is where it all starts.
So this is book 1.
This is book 1, CRB7. So this guy is really nifty because you can attach additional bars to the outside like this and create effectively a trammel arm. If you don't know what that is, that's how you make circles with a router. Okay, basically, put this guy in, you would have a little locking screw that goes into your workpiece. Let's imagine we've got a nice big piece of plywood or something, router in this position, and once you lock down like this, you can make very large circles by pivoting from this one point. You also can make small circles. They even have a little brass sleeve that goes around a screw, and you could put a little pin in on the base itself and do very small circles like that. Right? So you have the ability to make circles with this as well. I mean, that's not something I personally would do very often, but when you need that functionality, it's nice to have a little system that will be able to do that for you. So there are, as the box says, there are 7 things you can do. I'm just trying to focus on the things that I know you guys would probably be most interested in. Of course, let's not forget to mention, you don't want to take it for granted that people know this. If you were running your router for, let's say, dados on a surface, and you have a clamping edge guide, you can clamp that edge guide down, and you've got nice flat reference surfaces to be able to run this thing straight across. So that kind of goes without saying, but some people may not realize you can use it for that function as well. All right, so you've got your CRB7, and you want to trick it out, because who doesn't want pinstripes and spoilers, right?
Sure.
You guys are the worst audience. Jay's on it. Nicole, you're
I'm
terrible.
talking to the chat.
Okay. So here's the one I think most of you are going to be intrigued by. It's basically, look at this. This is the thing that's going to make this kind of start to act more like a traditional edge guide, right? So you would be able to attach this guy with these screws to the underside, like so. And that's going to give you a really nice long reference surface. But now you've got the additional benefit, number one, of adjustability built right into this guy here. So if you lock this one in, you have a little micro adjustment on your router, but now you have a micro adjustment on the position of your guide, which is pretty flippin' great. So once you have that in, one of the things a lot of people say, hold on, Jay, if you don't mind, can you attach these two screws into those two holes? So a lot of people, when you're doing some kind of a mortise or something on a narrow workpiece like this, I've gotten pretty good at holding my router in position and putting the right amount of pressure to make my mortises. I mean, we just did that I Don't Have a Domino video, and it really relies on your ability to keep a router, nice and clean and steady up against the edge. So you can certainly get the skills to do that, but a good insurance policy is to not just have your edge guide up against one surface, but to put, a lot of times I'll just double stick tape a piece of scrap to the other side. So you're essentially cradling the workpiece. Well, that's why they give you another one of these guys, because you can actually position that on the other side. So Jay's got this one for me, thank you. All right, so now you have adjustability on that side. You've got three options for where this guy goes. You can screw that one in, and now you can use the adjustment feature to get this side where it needs to go. So let's just simulate this. So once these are in position and it's nice and snug, but not too snug, you need to be able to still slide back and forth. Now you don't have any options but to move forward and back, and this way you end up with a perfect mortise. Another nice feature about these is they both have these little index marks on there. And you might think, well, what's the point of an index mark that isn't even near what we're cutting? Well, the reason is, if I know where I need to start here, and I get my bit lined up, and I say, well, I need a 2-inch long mortise, all I have to do is draw a line here. That would be my starting point. And then outside, where I can see it, I can draw my second line and say that's my 2-inch mark. And then, instead of trying to, which I always have trouble with, especially with my Festool router, all that dust collection, tubing and stuff that's in the way, you can't see what's going on in there. Well, you can certainly see outside of the work. So this is just an index mark that you could then follow and clearly see when to start and stop, assuming you put your index marks in the proper location. So that is, I think, a worthy upgrade. I think most people are going to want to get the CRB7 plus this thing, which is called the MHLF, because letters are fun. They refer to it as mortise, hinge, lock, and flute. The other thing you could do with this, again, not something I would do a lot of, but you can also put a shop-made scrap, screw that into the base, and use that for cutting a flute pattern. As long as it's the same size as the groove you're cutting, you basically cut one groove, drop that little scrap piece into the groove you just cut your second groove, and kind of move over as you progress along.
So while you're talking about this, a few of the chat folk members are asking about where to find this. You can go to their website, which is m-powertools.com. I have a coupon code for $50 off our audience.
$50 off our audience? How much does our audience cost?
For our audience.
You know what? I would buy our audience at full price.
Yes, I would too. So if you use Whisper 50, it only works on Empower Tools website. So you can bundle up what Marc's showing you. They have everything's right there. In fact, there's a scroll bar that has everything that Marc's talking about. This is also on Amazon, so I am putting it in our Friday Live section of our Amazon store over at amazon.com/shop/theWoodWhisperer. So there's multiple places to pick this stuff up, but you're only going to get the $50 off on their website.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It's not an Amazon coupon code.
Okay, so this is definitely more of a specialty. It's called their edging and dowel trim kit accessory. This one will get some, I would say 25% of this audience, because I've surveyed them, will be really excited about this. If you do a lot of edge banding, and I'm struggling with my goofy hands here. Hold on. Sorry.
Do you need some help?
No, I got it. I got it. I do need help, but not with this. Just general mental assistance.
I'm so glad we postponed this demo from last week.
Well, I mean, at least I've got some functionality here. Last week would have been a nightmare. So here's the last one we're going to show you, edging and dowel trim kit accessory. This guy just pops in like so. You lock it in place. So what we're doing now, if you imagine, router bit is going to come down nice and flush with the surface. If this were an edge banded piece of plywood, let's say, and you have your edge banding glued on, a lot of times we glue that edging on and it's proud of the surface, because if you don't do that, you tend to have pieces that go under the surface. So we make it proud and then we flush it up. But it's difficult to flush that up perfectly without gouging into the main surface here. So that's what this guy does. By effectively raising the height of the base, but giving us this little channel here, this little gap to play with, the bit can come down by whatever this is, about 1/4 inch, comes down about 1/4 inch. You basically set your bit flush with the surface, and then this bearing on the outside prevents you from moving away too much. You have perfect control to be able to just flush trim that edging, right? And no matter how high that edging is, as long as it's not more than 1/4 inch, the thickness of this add-on piece, you have plenty of room under there to be able to run this guy back and forth and trim that stuff nice and clean to the surface. So if you do a lot of edge banding on, carcasses for cabinets, whatever it takes, a lot of people have table saw setups for that, or you can use a flush trim bit, but a flush trim bit isn't always perfect, and a lot of times it will leave grooves. And if you kind of lose balance on the router, it can be hairy. This is definitely a very purpose-built add-on jig. So if you do a lot of this stuff, you're going to want this. Yes, it is. Jay's got the box there. Yep. The edging and dowel trim kit accessory. So very specialized, but I know some people who do a lot of that are going to be super excited by something like this. All right. So for the most part, that is the setup.
There you go.
That is M Power. And like I said, if I had this thing when I was evaluating the Bosch router as like my perma router, I might have made a different decision.
Yeah. So again, the coupon code is Whisper50. It will get you $50. I suppose she said $50 off the kit, but I don't know if it works on other stuff. Give it a try. Those in the chat room.
Find out and buy stuff until they turn it off.
I tried coupon codes like, does that work? Does this work?
I use that plugin, that Honey. What is it? Honey Pot or something like that?
Yes.
And
I love that.
You know what though? 90% of the time, it doesn't do anything.
It does for me.
Oh, because I always have the best price, Nicole.
I shop at all the best places.
Yeah, TJ Maxx. All right, so thank you, Empower. Of course, again, I want to make sure everyone understands that was a paid advertisement, but we never take on advertisements that we don't think are worthwhile or, aren't relevant or things that you guys would be excited about.
I remember when they approached us and you were like, does it work with all routers?
Yeah. Well, I was like, they got to send it because I got to play with this thing, figure out what it does, and figure out if it's worthy of showing people. And I think it is. It's a great little system.
So there you go.
Okay, we're good. Let's do some questions, shall we? Wow, we burned a lot of time on that.
We did burn a lot of time. That's okay.
We should charge more.
I said at the top of the show, Kevin Windsor did a super chat, but I guess it wasn't working. And so he emailed it to me. So he said, "Hi, Marc. I know you spent a lot of time on correct terminology for your new book. Maybe you can clear this up for me. People talk about end grain, face grain, and edge grain."
He missed the quotes on the third one, though.
Lasers. I don't see any difference between edge and face grain. What do you say?
There is a difference based on how the board was cut. But in terms of what woodworkers do with it and how we treat face and edge grain, there really isn't much difference, right? Because it's generally, we always look at that, I wish I had this question ahead of time, the bundle of straws, right? So the bundle of straws concept is what we have to think of when we think about wood fibers. So whether you are on one side of that bundle or this side of that bundle, in terms of how it cuts, in terms of how glue reacts to it, whether you're looking at quarter sawn material or flat sawn material, the wood just kind of in terms of behavior is going to be pretty much the same. It's not something you really have to think about. The thing you have to think about the most is end grain, because end grain is the cross section of those straws. It's that you cut into those straws and then show it to me, that's the end grain. That does behave differently, that does route differently, it chisels differently, it behaves differently. So that's what we're primarily concerned with. But when I talk about face grain and edge grain, those are kind of generic terms, because if this were, this actually is, believe it or not, quarter sawn. It's kind of a crappy piece because it's got a nice bit of pith in it. But this quarter sawn board, what's face grain for quarter sawn is edge grain for flat sawn. So it just depends on the orientation. I think when we talk about face and edge, we're usually talking about an orientation more so than a grain behavior thing, if that makes sense.
It does.
And that's what I think about that.
I got a question here from Kevin Hahn. Can you talk about the differences in the show pack lumber versus regular? Austin carries Banks show pack lumber now, and I'm not sure how much that will change picking through stacks for boards.
Know nothing about it.
Yeah.
I was talking to Randy over at Austin about the wood we just picked up, and he mentioned something about this show pack thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know what it is.
We need to talk to Randy
I'm
about
gonna
it.
get more information from Randy. I don't know anything about it. That's a great question for Austin Hardwoods. If you just call them, they should be able to answer your question.
Perfect.
So,
DC Persad, do you have in-person guild events? We don't.
no, the most we have
I mean, I guess,
is we occasionally will do a local Denver meetup.
or we'll.
It's not a guild thing, it's just Denver.
Yeah, or when we're like at an event, so IWF or AWFS.
Yeah,
we
sometimes
try
on location.
to do, but it, again, not really guild. It's just more. Hey, we're
Well,
here.
we would never really limit it to the guild,
Yeah.
because the guild is a very small subset of our total audience. And when you're in a local place, sometimes you do that and you go, okay, great, 2 of us showed up. It's me and Nicole. Great party.
Jason.
Jason will be there. So yeah, I mean, we do try to have some of these meetups, but I'll tell you the truth. I say this all the time. If I'm traveling alone, the meetup thing usually isn't going to happen. I need somebody to make it happen for me, because I'm so focused on whatever it is that I'm doing.
It's stressful.
To be on the road.
It's a whole planning thing.
Yeah, I always
and
need
I
somebody
always
to
weigh
plan it.
on, are they having fun? Or, like, I worry.
Mm-hmm.
I always worry. Anile 8 Tor 9 says, good morning, Mark and Nicole. I'm making a toy box for my son. I'm going to use pine lumber. Do I need to porefill to avoid the grain showing through the paint?
Well, porefill isn't really going to help you on pine. Porefilling is a process we use when we want to actually pack like a solid matter into open pores. That's really only going to work on open pored woods. Think oak, ash, even walnut to an extent, mahogany. So those are the pore filling woods. Something like pine, it's not really going to do much there. If you're worried about the grain showing through the paint, what you might want to do is pre-seal. You could certainly get like a de-waxed shellac or something like that and seal the pine first. But again, this is also what primer does. If you have a good quality primer, and there are shellac-based primers out there as well, good quality primer, lay that on there. You might want to sand that coat, smooth it down, and then proceed with your coats of paint. But again, I don't think pore filler is going to be the thing to help you. Sealing or priming and then moving on after a little bit of a sanding, moving on to your coats of paint is probably going to be your best bet for something like that.
So DC Persad just said that he or she moved to Denver and would be interested in any meetups. DC, I'm going to
Facebook group, right?
give you the link to the Denver Woodworkers Facebook group. Bunch of awesome woodworkers that are local.
We're not the only ones who do the meetups,
No,
too.
we're not the only ones. So
I think Mel Morris is, he's got a northern Denver meetup coming up soon.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly when it is. So people are free. If you are local, you're free to go there and plan a meetup. It's not just for us.
Yep. So I'll link if you're not already a part of that group. There you go. And that's how you stay in touch.
Andrew wants to know what air compressor I use in my shop. Last year I switched to I wanted something smaller and quieter. And there are one of the quietest air compressors on the market is by California Air Tools. And they get great reviews because of the feature that, like, if that thing turned on, the air compressor on our live show for years was a hilarious thing.
Watch some of those older live videos and you'll see me going,
because I had an Ingersoll Rand up, like, stand-up thing was huge. And when that thing fired up, it was like a diesel truck just started in the shop. And Nicole would just poop a little Hershey squirt. Little Hershey kiss would be on the ground after that would happen. So that thing would kick on and scare the crap out of Nicole. And I decided, you know what? I don't even use pneumatic tools. Like, I had it there in case I ever wanted to get into air compressor-based HVLP, right? Or maybe I wanted a pneumatic tool, I would have it. And then I realized, this is dumb. I'm never going to do that. So I went to California Air Tools. I've got this, not a pancake, but it's one of those little baby hot dogs. And it's right down there. It does a great job. I do see that they have kind of not a great reputation for long-term durability. But if you're like me and you pretty much use it to blow dust off of stuff and take dust off of my shirt, to run a couple of pneumatic nailers and some basic pneumatic tools, it's a great little compressor and super quiet. We could have conversations with that thing on. It's not very loud at all.
Cool. I got a question here from Nathan. What are some rather unknown tools that you find to be extremely helpful in your workflow?
So what are some what?
Unknown tools.
Oh, God.
He's thinking that there's mysterious tools that he doesn't know about.
Well, you've never seen this before.
You have the secrets.
This is a plastic bag.
A plastic.
Oh, it's a plastic bag. This would be this is a great question.
I know you, Nathan. That's why I'm giving you a hard time.
It's a great question, but it is not one that I can give good answers to without notice. I would need to think about what are some lesser known tools that people might, find very useful, but not a lot of people are using them. And again, my perspective on this is sometimes if I've talked about things like 20 times, I assume everyone knows about it, right? So maybe not. Let me give you one. Cabinet scraper. A number 80 cabinet scraper, if you could find these used, this is an old Stanley. I have 2 of them because they were cheap on eBay, and why not? Because that means I don't have to sharpen as often. Cabinet scraper is fantastic. You get it well tuned. It's easier on the hands than a regular card scraper, and this is something that you can use to prep the surface after you've done most of your milling. So you kind of do a quick prep on it, and this way you could skip the 80 grit, you could skip the 120, you could jump basically to like 150, 180 and call it done. So scrapers are great, and that includes regular card scrapers, but the cabinet scraper is kind of an unsung hero of the wood shop if you actually make use of it.
You want to sing for it now?
I love you, cabinet scraper. And it's actually fairly inexpensive. Veritas makes a new refined version of this if you want a brand new one. But if you could find these are pretty great. And we don't use them enough. I don't have it tuned up well. So there's times where a couple times Jay and I went to use these and it just went and chattered on the surface. So I was like, I think I need to sharpen that. And there's got to be more, but I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Okay.
What else we got?
We got a question. We got some super chats. Frankie wants to know, what are your thoughts on Wen tools? And here's a little coffee money. He
I don't know.
Also said he really wants you to do that router basics video. Do we have a router basics video?
No.
Okay. You talking about the router.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
All right, Frankie.
When I was looking this weekend, I was looking for hand power planers because I've got some stuff coming up with the Hank chair that Jory uses one of those. When we did the bevel on the underside of Jay's dining table, that was a time when it was like, man, if I had a hand power planer.
All kinds of people were like, why don't you have a hand power planer?
I had one for years.
Oh.
Like when Festool was sending me everything in their catalog, like back then,
yeah.
they sent me one of those. You know how many times I've used it? Never. So I sold it and got rid of it. And that was years ago. And now this is the first time I'm in a position where I go, I could use something like that. So I would have had it sitting around collecting dust. So I looked at them, and one of the tools that I saw when I was looking at hand power planers was Wen, W-E-N, that brand. I know nothing about them. And I looked at it, I'm like, well, it's pretty inexpensive, and their whole line of tools doesn't look too, looks like it's pretty nicely priced, but I don't know how good they are. So that was a long story to tell you. I have no idea.
Just clarification, everybody's trying the Whisper 50. It's not $50 off of anything. I believe it's You'll get.
Well, that's what you said.
Did I say anything?
No, you said it might apply to other things.
Yeah.
But it's most likely just going to apply.
I think it's just for, you'll get 50, if you put the bundle and you put the coupon code Whisper50, it'll take $50 off.
It's a pretty huge discount though.
Yeah. So.
Someone wants to know, Brian wants to know where I get the leather covers for my holdfasts. This was a gift from my buddy Matt. This particular one, if you can grab that for me, you're gonna like this, you guys. If you ever look very close at it, can you see what's on there? Ouch. That's the Fromona image. So my buddy Matt Cremona sent this to me. He had these made by somebody, and it's got his logo and everything on there. But if you know anybody that works leather, not very difficult to make something like this. You could probably make it yourself, Nicole. Want to start working with leather?
No.
But it doesn't take much. As long as you make it big enough that it fits on the head of your holdfast, you are good to go. I don't know. Maybe Matt sells them on his website. Does he? Anyone know?
Bad Bit Bucket just asked me about when the voting begins for the scholarships. When I find time. The voting or the application closed at the end of June. I have around 100 applications to go through. And then once I organize them, and then the folks that donated money to do additional scholarships, I'm gonna just organize it all, and it's gonna be a lot of work. So it's not an easy process at all, which is why it took me 3 years to open those applications back up.
Makes sense.
But yeah, look for, if you did apply, I promise I'll be emailing everybody that applied with a status update.
You know what I forgot to mention is Patreon.
Oh, Patreon.
So we have a couple people who did help us out over at patreon.com/WoodWhisperer. Christopher Davidson and Paul Engel.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, guys. We really appreciate the support.
Christopher?
Yep, Christopher and Paul.
Got a question here from Bill. Any chance of putting together a video on making doors and panels with a Festool domino? Didn't you do something like that already?
Why does it feel like I've done that?
This is making raised panel doors?
But that had nothing to do with the domino.
Oh, okay.
He wants domino-specific instruction. I used the domino on the hall tree, and we made some doors on that. I have done it in the context of projects, but the way my memory works, I don't know if those were free projects or guild projects, so it's definitely something that I have done. But making a tutorial specifically on that, the thing is, it gets a little hairy when we talk about tool-specific tutorials, because those are only of value to the people who have that tool. And when it comes to the domino, that's a very niche area, right? But I actually have had a number of people, even Joseph Mensch talk to me about, that there really isn't a good, here's how you use the domino to make stuff.
Yeah.
Tutorial out there. I think a lot of people get it, they use it, and you see it in the context of that build, but you don't get this general process instruction. So it's something I'm thinking about. But again, giving so much.
Chair has the domino in it.
Right, that does feature the domino, yeah. But doing a very brand-specific demonstration is a little bit tricky sometimes.
Yeah. Well, now that you have but I don't have a domino.
Yeah, I've got an excuse to dig deeper.
Reference to that
And when people
video.
complain, we could say, go look at this.
Go watch that video. We got a super chat from Triple J Customs Jose. Hola Spags, coffee run. Will this jig be in your Amazon store? And I think I've already I put the 3 components that Marc was talking about in the Friday Live section of the Amazon store.
Thank you, Jose.
So you can at least go and take a look at the specs. And then Frankie did another super chat. He had some YouTube Premium dollars to share.
Oh, nice.
So.
Well, thank you, Frankie.
Thank you, Frankie.
Appreciate that. You know what the worst part of this bandage is? My monkey arms. The thing that, here's where the wound is, right? But all of this hurts like hell because it's been pushing and creasing my hair in the wrong way. And actually, when this thing comes off, my hair is probably just going to be spiked and all goofy looking. I shave my arms like a swimmer.
Yeah.
Like a sweet, sweet, svelte, slick, like a seal swimmer.
Making Jason laugh.
That's my goal.
Try working.
That's what he tries to do. He's like, if you're around, I'm just gonna try to make you laugh.
Yeah, if I can make Nicole laugh and Jay laugh, I'm doing all right. I think I'm okay.
Brian, Marc, where did you get your leather? Did you already answer that one? The leather covers for holdfasts?
We did.
Yeah, we already talked about that. You're ahead of me.
Well, I see them sometimes, and I like to use the little feature
Yeah, I do like that little feature.
to add them, like where JWC says, you use the domino on the shop cabinet doors, WoodWhisperer. So yeah, I guess the build that we did, well, maybe a year ago now, for the alcove cabinets over here, that was just a basic carcass construction project, but I guess I used the domino to construct those doors.
Cool.
Here's the thing about the domino. If you can mark a line across the joint on both pieces, that's it. Like, that's about as difficult as the process gets, because then you're just adjusting the fence on the domino, lining it up with those pencil lines, point and shoot. It's one of the, in the way that it simplifies joinery for mortise and tenons, it's almost laughable how easy it is. As long as you get an accurate line on both pieces, it's going to be dead on.
Aaron Olson did a super chat and said, "Yay!
Yay, Aaron!
I finally caught it live!"
Ah, okay. I wasn't sure what we were excited about, but I'm willing to join him and not even know what's going on.
Mike Deemers also did a super chat, and his new profile has I think that's our hat. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe not. It looks like it.
I like his beard.
It says, "Love y'all, and thanks for the hat." You're welcome, Mike.
David Johnson says, do you think Festools are worth the price compared to other professional grade tools? David, if you could, go to our website and search for Festool, or even the sentence, what happened to Festool, or with Festool. I forget how I worded it. I have an article in there that shows, it talks about something that happened with my relationship with Festool and which tools I'm keeping and which ones are going. And this was a time where I had to decide what other like contractor grade tools could I have in the shop. You don't necessarily need Festool for everything. So the answer to the question really is some tools are worth it and some are not.
For you.
No, in general, for most people, some are worth it and some are not. I'm just generalities here. I'm not talking, I mean, there are specific use cases. Sometimes people, once they get into a family of tools, they like to stay there, and there's logical reasons why. For instance, I'm all Milwaukee on portable, drills and things like that, right? So when I get a new tool,
Thanks, Joseph.
right, it's Joseph's fault,
Joseph, it's
by
your
the way. So if I'm looking for, okay, let's say I want a battery-powered power planer, which is something I was looking at. Well, the Milwaukee version gets terrible reviews. I don't know why. It's like a tool that they don't care that much about. But I'm not going to buy a Makita and wind up getting a new battery pack and a new charger and all that stuff. Even if the Makita gets great reviews, I don't want to go into another family of batteries. So I'm stuck with that. So a similar thing happens with Festool. If you start to have some of their cordless tools and then you want to have the same batteries, sometimes it's just worth it for convenience to just get the Festool, and then your whole shop is green, right? So that's how you end up getting into that path. But you cannot, I will, there's certain tools in their lineup that I just cannot recommend people spend that extra money on. Things like their drills, right? You're going to be perfectly happy, especially if you're in a small shop like me and you're not on a job site dropping drills from, a 20-foot high roof. These tools are going to last a long time in our hands. We don't use them enough or abuse them enough to warrant spending tons of money on them. So there are tools that are game changers, and then they have tools that are not worth the premium. And I have my opinions on that. Nicole has her opinions on that. It just depends on who you ask. But not all is the answer to the question.
I like Mike's question here. If I start now on that advent calendar, will I have enough time to get all the tiny doors hung before Christmas?
Oh, the advent calendar. If you do one a day, that's about all your patience will probably allow for. You'll be fine.
Do you recommend removal of all hammers from the shop during this build? I will say
all hammers and sharp things.
I love that advent calendar.
It comes out every year.
It's
I'm
so
glad I
cute.
made it, but it was just the way it was designed with those little doors and those little hinges was a damn nightmare. Damn nightmare, Nicole.
Ava loves opening the little doors and getting her little Hershey kiss.
Oh, I'm super happy I made it, but
Yeah.
I might be just as happy buying like a Lego advent calendar every year and just calling it done and throwing the box away when we're finished. Yikes.
That was I think that was a 3-part build too. There's 3 videos on that one.
Mike says, thank you, Mark. I like your beard too. I was close to shaving it off. It was, sometimes it just, when you keep it at this length, there's days where it just gets irritated and itchy and you just feel like, get it off of there, but I didn't. The next big build I will though, because I like to be smooth for my respirator. So that rubber
My
Connects
my
nicely.
respirator likes me
Yeah,
smooth.
she likes me smooth.
Was that like an old 80s commercial?
Something
where
like
the
that.
woman's like Aqua Velva or something?
My respirator's name is Susan, and she likes me smooth.
Okay. Nathan says, a while back, I showed that jig I made for the router out of plexiglass that had essentially some functionalities of added reference surface. And at the time, you said that it wasn't needed. Why this?
Say what now?
I don't know.
Where's the question?
Right there.
A while
Back.
I showed that jig for a router out of plexiglass that has essentially the same functionalities as added reference surface. And at that time, you said it wasn't needed. Well, basically, Nathan, because there's a difference between necessity and features that just make things easier. I like this system, but does that mean you're going to see me ditch my edge guide and use a extra wide base for all of my operations? Not at all. I just think it's faster and easier to put one edge up against the surface. That second edge is, it's useful if you have that other piece to come in and hug the workpiece and you want to do that additional setup. If you need that, it is going to be helpful. If your base is wider for certain operations, that can be helpful. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do them. So it's what I use personally and what I think the average beginner might get some use out of. Those could be two different things. In your case, you were talking about that plexiglass mortising jig. I didn't mean to say that it wasn't helpful to someone. I was just saying I don't think it's necessary. I don't think, it's kind of like the sharpening argument that people have all the time. Are sharpening jigs necessary? No, not at all. Are you better off learning how to hand sharpen without a jig? Absolutely. But do I have a jig? Yes, because that's how I want to spend my time. Quickly throwing it into a jig, getting the job done, not perfecting the muscle memory required to get a perfect hand sharpening going. I just find it easier and more accurate. So it's just one of those things. It's personal preference. In this particular case, this unit, because I've got a Festool setup, I've got a really good edge guide. I have to decide how much of this I actually want to keep, and what I don't keep, we'll just give away to someone. Just because I give it away doesn't mean it's not useful to someone else. It just means that it's not something I think is necessary for my workflow.
Integrated into your workflow. Patrick wants to know, with summer full in force, any yard games or barbecue-minded short builds in the picture? I know you've done them in the past. # Honda.
We don't have anything planned at the moment. Well, no, that's not true.
No.
We on the list.
We have a barbecue.
You're gonna love this. I'm thinking about building a barbecue grill scraper.
Yeah.
Which is just a piece of wood with a handle carved into the end. Because it's like this in the world of barbecue. Everyone is becoming aware that apparently little pieces of metal in your throat is a bad thing.
Yeah.
So cleaning your grates with like a traditional, metal brush type deal, those little pieces of metal sometimes have actually dislodged and then gotten attached to food and then get stuck in somebody's throat, which can be really, really dangerous.
That makes me cringe.
It makes you want to hack a little bit. So there's a big movement now. If you even go to like Walmart or Home Depot, you're going to see these wooden grill scrapers. And my gosh, guys, like I can make a few thousand of them, today with our scraps, and they're very easy to make.
We should make a bunch of them, and we'll give a couple away on the show.
We can give some away. Yeah, we'll burn our logo into them.
Yeah, that's right. We do have a burner.
Yeah. So it's a fun little project. It's another great use for scraps, and they make great gifts. And once you burn them into the shape of your grill grates, they actually work pretty well. I have a sample out there that I'm working with, and I'm trying to see how good it works. I don't find that it cleans as well as the brush, but sometimes I'll take the brush and I'll clean it, and then I'll come back with the wooden one and do the final scrape just to make sure there's no metal bits on there. Either way, that's something we might do. And really, can you get any easier than like cutting a 1/2-inch piece of wood to about yay big and putting a handle on it?
I know you made the washer game for me.
Yeah.
We should do a cornhole game too. Do you have cornhole, Jay?
Cornholio.
Do you have a cornhole game?
Jay's got a cornhole. I've seen it.
Tracer pellets.
Okay, what else we got?
Let's see. Chad wants to know, do you need a wheel or marking gauge for dovetails?
You should have something. You don't necessarily need it because you could always scribe your shoulder with other methods. You could use a straight edge and a, sharp knife. Dude, what did we do over here that has little tiny black dots everywhere?
I didn't do it.
Like I splattered something. It
It was
all
probably
the entire
paint
wall.
from the hall tree.
No.
No, we splattered something over here. Anyway, sorry, I got
I
distracted.
see it.
Yeah,
It's over here too.
maybe when we no, that's not it. Well, look, it's all over my tools. Oh, this is upsetting me. So you could, let's say you want to describe the base of your dovetails. You could do that with a straight edge and a marking knife or like an X-Acto knife. It's not ideal, right? Because the great thing about this is you get a fixed distance for the set of your blade, and you can go all the way around a workpiece. If you're using a straight edge, it's a little trickier. So I highly recommend a good quality marking gauge to be able to cut those shoulder lines. But can we say that it's 100% necessary? No, you could probably do it without it, but it's going to make your life a little more difficult.
Craig just did a super chat and said, I know you said it before, but I'm having trouble finding the answer, so I'm just going to ask. The little hexagon brass mallet on your back wall. I need one.
Dima makes these.
Dima.
This one is also covered in schmutz, and you can have this one because now it's ruined.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. So Dima makes the hexagon-shaped ones.
Dima.
The round heads are Glen Drake tight hammers, I think they're called. Very similar form factor. Dima's are actually nicer, but he's also small production, so I don't know what his production time is. I don't even know if he's still making
I'm looking in his, so if you,
He's got an Etsy
if
store,
you
right?
just Google Dima, D-E-M-A, Etsy, he's
Yeah.
the first one that pops up.
Right.
I don't see his little hammers. I see a brass hammer, but that's
Yeah.
not, oh no, that's not his. Is he closed? He might be closed.
Well, the thing is, I know
Oh,
this.
it says visit their shop. Oh, there it is. There it is. $87. He does have.
Yeah, you might want to go directly there.
I'm
I
gonna
mean,
put a link in the chat.
if you're easily politically agitated, you might want to avoid the sticker that says God, guns, and something that he has in his store, the car decal. Just go right to the woodworking section.
Yeah.
We don't need to know each other's politics, do we?
We
I
don't.
think so.
We don't. I like Kevin G's. This is our last question.
Kenny G?
Kenny G. No, Kevin G.
You're the worst, Nicole.
We're like the same.
Oh, okay.
So
That's
if
fine.
I'm the
That's
worst,
why.
if I'm the worst, you're the worst.
You make me the worst, and I love it.
So Kevin wants to know, have you ever done a project and a few years later wish you did something different to it because of something you recently learned or became better at? Do you redo the project or just live with it?
There have
he
been
lives
times.
with it.
Yeah, I definitely live with it. There's no doubt about that. For instance, like the gaming dining table, we designed a somewhat complicated way to have accessories join onto the side of the table for gaming purposes. That was pretty cool, but later, once Geek Chic went out of business, I looked at the system they had and found that they just made a simpler version that I could adapt and would probably be, I don't know if I would say it's better because I don't think it's as strong as the one that I developed, but it's easier, and that kind of sometimes trumps the ability of it to hold like a giant mug of ale, which sometimes you do. So when I made the coffee table, I was sure to incorporate the simpler system. So there are times where I might make a variation of that and utilize the improvement and put that into the second piece. But the first piece is still what it is. There's no reason to rebuild it. But there are times we've done that on the website. So I made...
Even videos you go back to.
It's possible, but I made that little step stool, right, for the kids. So I had an original, and I built that pre-WoodWhisperer. So I revisited the design, and with my current sensibilities, whatever design skills I have developed, or I would call it more of a design eye, where I could see if an angle looks right or a width of a piece, and then also new skills to be able to execute something a little bit better. I looked at that design, and actually that entire build is focused on looking at the old one and trying to see if we can't improve it and make it better. So yeah, that is something that I've done before. I don't do it that often though, because the way things go now, it's like keep moving forward, right? If I can just make it better, I won't make the same thing again, but I'll make something possibly similar that uses similar tools and techniques and just make it better.
Well, even the hall table, the sculpted hall table, the
one with the little
compound legs.
Yeah.
You've had revisions of
I've reversioned that a few times.
So
Let me get one more, and
All
then I
right.
got to head out.
all right.
I do not. This is an appointment I do not want to miss.
No, yeah.
Because I want to look at a sweet scar on the back of my hand. It's going to be awesome.
We don't have any more super chats, and honestly, we just need to pick a winner for the guild project.
Oh.
So, unless you see a question that caught your eye, someone had asked about lumber. Where was it?
You pick one. I don't have a list of questions. That's usually how I pick.
Let's see here. I don't know.
I'm going to give it to Kevin Hahn,
There
and
you
the
go.
reason is because I didn't have a good answer for him.
Oh, there you go. Kevin Hahn. Email me, Nicole@thewoodwhisperer.com, and I will get you set up in the guild with a project of your choice.
There you go. Okay, so that's about it. Thank you for watching, everybody, and just regular schedule next week.
Regular schedule
I have to
next
keep
week?
asking because I know we got AWFS coming up soon.
Yeah, but that's not next week. That's the week after.
Okay, I just don't know
Yeah,
when it
that's
is.
yeah.
I know when I'll know when it's time. When you go, hey Mark, put your underwear in this bag because we're going somewhere. We're like, all right,
All right.
I got you.
Gotta.
Okay, and hopefully, you know what? This past week was crazy because I thought I was going to be able to work, and then I realized that I wasn't. So then we redesigned the breadbox thing, and now hopefully next week, Monday, we're going to start working. And even if I can't do stuff
Yeah.
with my hands, I'm going to be telling Jay what to do and let his hands do the work. And we will get back to building. So, you know, and if I'll mention, because I don't mention it enough, if you don't follow me on Instagram, that's probably the place that I spend the most time, like on social media, posting updates and things that are going on. So if, it's basically just WoodWhisperer at Instagram.
And,
so
and
find us
popcorn
there.
and Dougie.
Oh, lately there's popcorn.
We put a post up for Indiana popcorn, and we got a funny picture of Dougie.
Yeah.
Smash that like button. Oh, and Joseph Mensch just did a last-minute super chat for us
Hey,
and
thanks,
said,
Joseph.
"Celebrate the stitches coming out with a shrimp po' boy."
Oh, I should on my way home. I go right past the place.
You do.
All right. Hey, thank you everybody once again. Have a great weekend, and we will catch you next time.
Bye.
Toodles. Toodles and noodles.
Sawdust Factory.
What about him?
He just said, "Thanks for sharing. I appreciate learning different approaches."
Well, thank you. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.